Good morning, everyone. And I just want to do a quick introduction and get us going with today's presentation with Tom Jablonski. My name is Kate Watts. I am here with Vayner Solutions, Vayner Costerisan, and I'm the Client Services Manager here with the team. Today, we have a presentation with Tom Jablonski on cloud-based ERP systems, Dynamics 365 Business Central. We are going to be doing an overview today. All right, and Tom, of course, is our wonderful lead for Business Central, and he has been with the product since we started working with it. He is also a longtime GP consultant and one of my personal favorite people. So, Tom, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you, Kate. Welcome, everybody. So today we're here to go over Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, which is quite a mouthful, but we just generally refer to it as BC. So you may hear me reference that as we go through, and it is just talking about our Business Central here. So what you see me at is our landing page inside of BC, but I'm actually going to sneak away for a minute because Business Central is actually just part of Microsoft's solution stack. And so any of you that use Office 365 today for your Office products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, this is just one more tool in your quiver within the Microsoft team here. So if I click over here, here's your Office landing page, and here's all the apps that you might normally see, right? And so within here, if I click on all apps, I now get to see all the different things here, and Business Central is just one of these apps that's available to us out here, okay? And so I can launch Business Central right from within here, or I can actually go in and log in a different way. So we could just type in businesscentral.dynamics.com, and then it launches us directly into Business Central. So you don't have to go through Office 365. It's just another way to go through there, okay? Along with that is, again, when we look at all the different apps that we have available, Business Central is seamlessly integrated with Excel, with Word, with Outlook. Not PowerPoint yet, can't think of a way to do it. It does now have a connection into Teams, and then also the Power Automate, the Power Apps suite of products. So we have what used to be Flow, now it's Power Automate. We have Power Apps, and I forgot what the third one was. And then we have Power BI, right? And so that's a visualization tool that's accessible for you to be able to go out there and look at your data. And so from that perspective, I just kind of wanted to showcase a couple of these things so I can start to shut down some of the tabs that I have open. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click that, close that back up, and let you see. So here is a Power BI report that's visualizing some job cost data. So this was meant to be a summary view. I added some color into this one and kind of left that one alone. But the idea would be is we have these jobs or these slicers out here, and this allows us to go out here and start to refine what we're looking at inside of Power BI. This is data being surfaced right out of one of our demo environments. And so again, if I were to click here, I now see a more restricted view. These are jobs that are related to a specific type of job, right? I could click on service, and now I'm looking at jobs that were related to service jobs and things like that. And notice all of my data is changing. And so again, if I switch into a different view, this again shows me all my different jobs that exist out there. And then it's letting me see certain key pieces of data about all these jobs. And then finally, this was one where, hey, if I wanted to look at a particular job and see if I had any outstanding POs, I could actually come in here to see if I was waiting for anything to be arriving before I could get started on it. And then this Power BI, this was related to some FBOs that we've done out there. And so this one's showing fuelings for the month, arrivals and departures, and monthly gross profit. So again, this is just a visualization tool. It's one of the other things within the Microsoft stack that really makes Business Central super powerful and super convenient for your people to go out there and leverage all this stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and close these two tabs up, and now I'm getting down to a much more reasonable set of tabs. So why I have three tabs open here is they're all open to the same company, but what I wanted you to see is each one is tied to a different role center. And what you'll notice is you'll start to see different data elements being presented to you as we switch between all these different kinds of role centers. And so we're going to go through and talk about this in a few minutes, but I just kind of wanted to introduce this concept. So this is a business manager. This gives us a lot of flexibility to go throughout the system. As I switch over to a sales order processor, sorry, let me jump back here for a quick second, right? Notice I'm seeing purchase orders and purchase invoices, and then I should have some sales invoices showing up here, or sales this month and overdue sales invoices and things like that. When I switch over to a sales order processor, right, I no longer am seeing purchasing stuff. I'm just focused on sales information. I'm just focused on sales here, things like that. It's not to say if I have rights to go to purchasing that I can't get there. Notice we have it on the menu bar here. So the idea would be, though, is this, again, it's a role center. I think of it as your launching pad into Business Central, right? It's here to surface out a lot of really good pertinent data, trying to be localized on the type of role that you function in inside of your company, and bring to the front here those things that would be most important to you in that kind of a role. So this final one would be my accountant role. And again, it does a great job of just surfacing out financial data, you know, my accounts, my vendors, things like this. And then we're going to go through this in a little more detail right now. Okay. So as we work through the screens now, and we're going to stay pretty centric inside of Business Central here, this is your main company. We can have multiple companies in here, and there's two ways that we can actually switch between our companies. We have a sprocket up here, and then we can click on My Settings here, and then I can switch between all of my different companies by just coming in here and selecting which one I wanted to be in, okay? The other thing is this is where you can actually select all the different kinds of roles that are available. You can choose which one works best for you. You could try one out and go, I don't really like that one. Let me try a different one, and figure out which one works best for you. And then any of you that are GP users, right, this work date would be the same as your system user date that would be down here in the lower left corner of your GP. If you set this date, so let's pretend I'm in my demo environment. It's got me at May 1st here, but let's pretend we're still finishing up April. I could technically change this date to April 30th, and then it would then revert any of the transactions that I'm going to originate and start with to an April 30th date. Maybe I'm trying to finalize some stuff and I just wanted everything to, in case I forgot, I wanted to make sure it went back to April. I can set my date here, and most dates would stay with that date. What wouldn't change would be if there was a date already in a transaction, it would stay whatever that original date was, okay? All right, so we don't switch by clicking on the company name. That's something that we did inside of GP. Here we have to actually go through our sprocket. Or the second way that we can actually do that is we have a nice, cool company hub, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more, but I can actually use this to switch between all my different companies. So I don't even have to go to the sprocket. I can just come right into here and say, oh, I want to switch to Demo Co, and I can jump right to it right from here. So that makes it nice and handy, and a little bit different than what we had to do in GP. I think it's almost easier. This hub does actually present us with some information across all these companies, and there's a special screen there that I'll take you to that will kind of showcase that info for you a little bit better. So here's our company. Anytime you click on this, it wants to bring you back to this role center. So if I had a screen up right here and I just wanted to get back here to go do something else, I can just click here and it'll it'll close up all of my screens and allow me to get right back to here, and then I could go launch and do something else, okay? Over to the right of this is our menu bar. So these are all the different things that are being ferreted out to you in this role center. And so again, if you look at sales order, so here I've got finance, journals, cash management, cost accounting. If I go here, you know, I've just got sales, purchasing, inventory, and posted documents. So from that perspective, again, these role centers are trying to get you to the details that you need quickly. And so in here, this starts to expose the different modules and the different types of transactions that you might be trying to do within the system and each of these modules, okay? So, hey, not everybody wants to go in here and have to say finance, go do a general journal, and then go select your journal to go do it. And so the idea would be is we can actually just use our shortcut bar. And so any screen, any report can be added to your shortcut bar super easy. So a couple ways to do this. One would be is right here, I've got my aged accounts payable report already tied here. If I use my search button here, the magnifying glass, anybody used to GP would be used to our magnifying lookups. So here, if I were to go in and type in, I wanted to look at my aged accounts, and this time I want to look at my receivables report. So right from this search box, I can use partial words. I don't have to type out the whole thing, and it starts to present things that start to meet what I started typing in here. And so what I can do is notice this one's already bookmarked, and that's the aged accounts payable I already had in my shortcut bar. If I want to bring in that accounts receivable, all I have to do is mark it right there. And then if I close it up, you'll see that I've just added it. It's that simple to add things in. Any screen, any report can technically be added into your shortcuts so that you can get to it nice and easy and quick. It can get kind of long, and what it'll tend to do is it'll actually start to create you a second row in here, allowing you to then continue to add in as many shortcuts as you see fit, okay? Right beneath that is we've got some insights, and this will actually grow over time as you just start to do more transactions and more things in the system. Right now, it's only got the one, and it says, hey, your largest posted sale, but this is actually logical information that it's showcasing to you. If I were to click on this, it'll actually take me to what was my largest posted sale, and I could grab it right here and actually go in and open up this record, okay? So I can drill right back to the original document. It would start to, normally what it would do is welcome you. It would say, hey, good morning, hey, good afternoon, whoever user you are, and it knows who you are, right? And so the idea would be is as you put more data into the system, you might see dots down here, kind of like you do with any other feed that you work from, and it'll just start to rotate through all the different kinds of bits of data that it's just trying to showcase to you. Hey, your largest customer this month, or the most sales for this month with your customer is this customer, kind of things. All that kind of gets fleshed out in there. And then these action bars. So again, notice I've got purchase invoices, and then there are the ability for me to come into here and do a purchase invoice down through here. And so the idea here would be is if I click here, or if I went through purchase and then purchase invoices, this is going to take me to a list of unposted purchase invoices. If I were to go here and try and do a transaction, it's going to take me directly into a transaction screen, allowing me to just start keying in data. And so the idea might be is, hey, if I really want to see what hasn't been posted yet, I probably want to click here. If I really just, hey, I'm on the phone with somebody and they want me to charge up a purchase, or they want to charge up a sales invoice, I can just click on one of these actions and it'll take me directly into there. All sorts of different things that you can do under these actions as well, right? So there's different things under different actions allowing you to do stuff, okay? And then as we work our way down, this is where we start to get into the meat and the potatoes of all the different things that are going on here. So again, similar to this up here, these are live tiles, and these actually allow me to go in there and look at all the details behind it. So here, I haven't been very good. I've got overdue purchase invoice documents, and if I click on it, it'll show me all 16 of these. Anything that shows up as red and bold is bad, right? It means we're late. We haven't done what we were supposed to. But it lets me review all this stuff. And again, I can drill all the way back to the original document if I needed to, and be able to go out there and review that stuff. This will show me my cash account balances. What it's going to show me are the 3 accounts that are my cash accounts. And then this is the total of these two accounts in here. And so again, if I click back here, that makes up my $94,610. Down here, we've got payments. We've got purchase invoices next week. This is due next week. Purchase discounts next week, right? Looking at whether or not you're taking discounts and letting you know that you've got some that might be coming up. If you do some emailing through our system, it does give you the ability to do some emails. Emails are leveraged for, we have workflows that are built within the system. Again, we can also use Power Automate, which allows us to do workflows that were not designed within the system. It's leveraging Microsoft's Power Automate to go out there and maybe create you more powerful workflows than what the system already has derived out of the box. But again, so those approvals, you could see these approval requests and your request to approve if you're an approver, but you've also got all these different email statuses that can be out there. As I work my way down, on many of these, we have my accounts. And so what it's doing is it's letting each user, hey, if I really want to watch my cash accounts, maybe these are the only 3 that I have showing up in mine. Or if I really want to look at my accounts receivable and my payables, and that's all I care about, I can decide what accounts are important to me that I really want to keep an eye on. And just like anything else, these are hyperlinked. They take you right back to these numbers and allow you to go back there and review all that stuff. Similarly, we can do my vendors. Maybe there's some key vendors that I really want to keep an eye on. Maybe we've got, we're a manufacturing concern and I've got my steel vendor and I've got to really watch how much we get out there with them. And so I want to be able to keep them in my list of my vendors so I can keep an eye on what's going on with them and their amounts. Similarly, not similarly, off to the right here, we've got some financial performance, and then we've got some business performance, right? Both of these give us the ability to actually load many different charts and graphs in here, and you can choose whichever one seems to work for you. The other thing that you can do within here is you can actually just cycle between them using a previous and a next chart. Similarly to that, you can actually go out here and actually control the type of data, right? What is a period? And you could define it as a week, a day, a month, a quarter, and then this data will change. And then as you're doing previous period and next period, it's going to do it based on whatever period length you chose here. And so that's pretty handy too. And then our cash flow forecast. So this is one of the areas where Microsoft has really started to try to take advantage of their machine learning. And so in this section of the screen, this is where Microsoft is going out here and starting to say, hey, you've got vendors and you've got customers. And so let's pretend, looking at our vendors here, we've got Fabricam, First Up Consultants, and Graphic Design, and so on. Let's say that you have net 30 terms with all of these vendors, but actually, when you pay Fabricam, you pay them in 15 days. And when you pay First Up Consultants, you pay them in 35 days. And worldwide importers, on average, you're paying them in 30 days. The cash flow, whether it's vendors or customers, looks at your experience rate, and that's part of what this machine learning does. And it says, hey, you've got some expenses that are coming up, and oh, it's a lot for Fabricam. You tend to pay those in 15 days. That's what it's going to showcase to you from a forecasting perspective is, even though technically it's not due for 30, you tend to pay them in 15 days. It's going to do this machine learning forecast for you and let you know that that's going to be due 15 days out, more than likely, rather than 30 days out. Similarly with your customers, if they pay late, if they pay early, it's doing that with your receivables, and it's looking at your experience rate with those and doing the exact same thing. So this forecast, if you're taking advantage of the AI machine learning stuff, can be really insightful and look at your experience rate over time with each of your vendors, customers, and so on as you're going through this stuff. As I work down to the last two sections, this is our report inbox. So any report in the system can actually be scheduled for you so that you can see here, I went out and I scheduled my aged accounts payable so that it was sitting in my inbox every single morning. So as soon as I come in the morning, it ran at midnight the night before, I would be able to click on this and it would take me right into my aged accounts payable, sitting there waiting for me each and every morning. Okay, so you could have any number of reports, and I can showcase to you in a minute how you can go set that up. It's really, really simple. And then the last piece is we can actually embed our Power BI reports. So again, those Power BI reports I had up there, if I really wanted that on my dashboard, I could actually embed it right within BC here. It's that seamlessly integrated with the system. And these can be moved to most any screen. We can put different Power BI reports on different screens all throughout the system. All right, so this is our role center. It's kind of walking you through the system, getting you prepared and getting you to understand this. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to just jump into a customer screen. Whether I'm going to a customer or a vendor screen, they're pretty much identical. They function very much the same. But what this starts to do for us is if I click here and I start to go out here and I look at my list of customers, I'm already starting to see gobs and gobs of data about my customers, right? If I look at this, Datum Corporation, I have a balance of $12,329.50 with a balance due of 0. Well, what's the difference there? This is a current invoice that's sitting out there. It's not due yet. And so therefore, I don't owe they don't owe us any monies as of right now. We've just issued the invoice out and we're just waiting to get payment on it. Here, we've got older invoices and it's all due. And the idea would be is, again, these are hyperlinked. I can drill back on this and I can see the invoices that make up that amount, okay? If I back out of here, while I'm on this screen, I haven't even gone into the customer record yet, and I've already drilled back on their balance. I can also look at all of their transactions. I can look at any ongoing sales orders. There's 3 of them for this customer. If I click on Tray Research right beneath it, there's 0 sales orders going on, but we do have 1 quote going on for them. We had 52 posted shipments against 52 posted sales invoices. Again, if I were to go back to ADatum, they've only got 36 of both of these. And again, I can continue scrolling down. I get to see their balance. I get to see their outstanding orders. I can see their last payment receipt in here, and I can even drill on these payments and actually go back and look at their payment history with us and see all of their payments. So the access to data is immense. It's pretty remarkable how quickly, how easily you can get to this stuff. Now, there's one other key piece of integration that I really wanted to share with you. And so I went into customers first. I'm showing you ADatum. I've got a contact record out here for Nick Conley. And so what I wanted to do is, I'm actually going to show you how the connection works here, but I've already cheated and I've queued it up in my other Outlook, and there's a reason that I did this. So now I'm in Outlook. Maybe I don't even have Business Central running at all. From here, I can go into my menu, that's these dots right here. I can click on Business Central and I can click on Contact Insights. And now it's actually logging me into Business Central. Now, I can do it from this version of it. I prefer it in the full Outlook client, and I'll explain why right here. So now, here I am in my full Outlook client. Here's Nick Conley. I had him send me an email a long time ago. And I just keep using it over and over because I set him up as a contact for ADatum. Notice there's the 12,329.50. I'm sitting in Outlook. I'm not in Business Central necessarily. I've launched Business Central in here. The reason that I like this version of it is, if you looked at the other screen, you know, this pane starts out at this size, and then you're scrolling down for quite a ways to really kind of look at all the details. What I like about in the full fat client of Outlook is I can resize this pane, and I can start to, you know, take advantage of this pane now. And again, I'm looking at my posted sales invoices. There's the 36 of them. If I needed to see any of those invoices, I can click on it. I can open any one of these invoices for this customer and have a conversation with them. So this could have been an inbound email from my customer, ADatum, and Nick referencing one of their invoices saying, hey, I have an issue with one of our invoices. You know, it looks like you were charging me $190.10 for this item. I thought we agreed on a different amount. And I can start having that conversation right here, right within my Outlook, without me having to get out of Outlook, go launch Business Central, get in there, go to my sales stuff, go to my customers, bring up ADatum, look at all their invoices and find the one they're talking about. I get to do it all right within Outlook. I don't know any other system that gives you this capability. I find this to be really, really cool. And then I even have the ability to pop out this little Business Central window and actually make it be its own freestanding window here. Okay. Now, not only can I use this as a, you know, hey, they had a question about one of their invoices. If this was a vendor, right? Nick could have been a contact for my vendor. I could have been sending them, hey, I'm interested in buying your Athens chairs. And, you know, yes, I agree that we want 10 of them at this rate. We can technically actually start a brand new transaction right here. And so from that perspective, if I was working with my vendors and they sent me the details, and just pretend that you're seeing that this said Athens desk, quantity of 10 and $100 each, right? Bogus numbers. The point would be is I would be able to say, I want to create a new purchase order from this. It would find that ordered data here and would actually start to bring some of that in as a line item as I were going through and starting to create this new record in the system, okay? So I can just as easily, Nick's tied to a customer, I could create a new sales quote right from here. I could create a new sales invoice. Doesn't really matter. I'm actually originating it here in Outlook, but as soon as I were to close it up, it would be available to me inside of Business Central if I went back to the Business Central client. So These are really cool, unique things that none of our competitors can do inside of Outlook, inside of some of these other tools. It is seamless and it works beautifully and it does really, really cool stuff. And again, having these conversations and replying to emails as I'm looking at details really is, amazing. So again, if I were to drill back, I can click here. I can click on one of their 2 open invoices and I can be reviewing all the details of this as we're going through this. And then I could be responding right here and going back in there and giving them a response about what was going on with that stuff based on what I just saw there. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce that down and be done with that. And we can actually close that one up now. Now, the other thing about the system is this. Any of you that are long-standing GP users, right? If you had GP launched 3 different times, whether you were in different companies or just because you wanted to be in a couple different areas of GP simultaneously, GP let you do that. The danger was you were consuming multiple licenses into GP. And I'm sure other ERPs were doing all the same kinds of things, right? If I launched it 3 times, I was consuming 3 licenses. Well, that's not really good because that means there's 2 other people that potentially can't get in the system. That's not what's going on here. I'm Tom Jablonski in every single one of these. It knows who I am, and I can just sit here and I could be duplicating this tab all day long and just keep signing in as myself. And I could have every single one of those companies that I showed you in our demo environment launched in its own tab so that I could actually be reviewing data in each one of them as I was doing this, and I'm only consuming my license. I'm not impacting anybody else in my organization whatsoever, okay? So I find that to be a huge deal for us, and I do think it's kind of important to point out. All right, so we talked about customers, and we kind of looked at some sales invoices. If I go out there and I take a quick look at our vendors, right? Similar again, I get to look at details. These screens here, these are called grid screens, sorry. I didn't want to go to my vendors for this one. I actually had a couple that were set up, under my customers. So what I want to do here is bring up my filters. Okay, so what I wanted to showcase here is these are our grid views. This is a really handy tool. Again, remember I said we've got integration into Word and Excel. So if I click here, I can just take this right out to Excel. Anybody used to using GP and we did a smart list, that's what this was basically doing for you is I can just open this up. I could take my smart list, drop it to Excel, and I could sit here and manipulate this data and do whatever I wanted to. I could just as easily take it, send it off to somebody, right? If I wanted to come in here, do a share, send it as an attachment, I can do all of that right from within, starting out inside of BC and then basically going out and sending all of this data off to whoever it was in the organization that was talking about it with. Okay, so this is kind of handy. These views are customizable. It's not the same as Smart List. And what I mean by that is within Business Central, we have a different way of, they're called personalizations. You could argue that you're customizing the screen, but you're not really customizing it. What you're doing is, and again, the best way to describe it for GP users would be a smart list. If you went into a purchasing smart list, it gives you a finite number of columns that you could add in to a certain smart list. That's the same concept here under our personalizations. So if I were to click my sprocket again and click on personalize, it does let me come over to here and add different fields. And here's all the different fields of information that I could add to this grid view. Now, this concept of personalization impacts any screen within the system. And so here's the deal. If I'm looking at this and I'm saying, oh, you know what, we do multi-currency. I want to know the currency code for this. I can drag it out, drop it, and I've just added that. So it's just a personalization. These are predefined fields that were in the data set for this screen. It's not a true customization like it would have been inside a GP. These are things that allow any user to alter these screens to make it work the way they need to. Hey, I'm not doing location codes. I don't need this here. I'm going to go ahead and hide that. Now it's just going to drop back into this list, and I've altered my screen. I don't really need currency code here. I can hide that one as well. So it lets me adjust these things so that this is much more meaningful for me and I can work with it better. Maybe I don't like my vendor number being the primary. I can actually move this, and I could say, I want my vendor name to be the primary sort over here rather than the vendor number. Now, my vendor number would adjust with the rest of this stuff as I start to scroll around. And this is the primary that I'm searching on now as we're over here. These things are going to be frozen on this side of the red line, and the rest of this stuff would scroll as you're dealing with this, okay? When I go into a transaction screen, I'll show you some of the other areas where you can go out there and personalize. And the idea behind it would be is make these screens work for you so that you're just looking at the details that make sense to you. But maybe if you wanted to draw some of it out for a report, you could drag them out. You could then say, I want to drop this into Excel, and you could take that data out, similar to a smart list, okay? If the data doesn't exist in this data set, that's when you're talking about a true customization inside of BC. We would have to get a developer involved. They would have to add that data element into the data set, which you could then drag out onto the screen itself. That is a true customization in BC speak, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and click done here, and I'm done playing around with my screen, and now it's saved that. One of the things that you don't have to do when you're in that version of this is I can change the size of this column by simply just dragging and dropping. Notice it's got the same little icon there that you would see in Excel if you were going to resize a cell inside of Excel. I can drag and drop, and I can shrink it. It's not going to shrink too much further because it's trying to take up all the relative space here. But the idea would be is this is one area where I can drag and drop. Maybe this was getting cut off, right? And maybe the phone number, because I added a bunch of columns over to the right here, was being cut off. I would be able to drag it over and then present more. It would just mean that the scroll bar would appear and it would start to scroll over to the right more. Okay, I'm going to get off of that, and we're going to go back to the beginning. And so under here, I was going to go in and go to our posted sales invoices. And this is where I was starting to say, hey, I can do some of my filters. So over here is our filter button, and it looks like a funnel. When I click it, it goes on. If I click it again, it'll go off. And the idea behind this is you can set up predefined views over here. You can create filters over here so that you could refine this. Right now, it is showing me all posted purchase or sales invoices within our system. Hey, this goes on for quite a while. I'm kind of interested in only seeing where we have an amount remaining for some of these, right? I don't want to look at all these zeros. I have a couple options. One is I could come over to here. I could just resort this descending based on the remaining amount. And now I'm going to just see people with the remaining amount up here at the top, the biggest ones first down to the smallest, and then all my zeros. But that's still a lot of zeros. I don't really want to look at that. So I just want to see any unpaid invoices. And now, based on those filters, and similar to doing a smart list in GP, and anybody that's not GP, sorry, but I come from that background, right? These would be like save smart lists out here, and that's all these are. So these are predefined, allowing me to just click on them and see the different pieces of data based on what we're seeing out here. And so from that perspective, I can just focus on my unpaid sales invoices and see that I only have, you know, 12.5 of these out here that I have to be concerned about, okay? And again, we can drill all the way back to the original documents, get right into it, look at all the details, and do what we need to do. While I'm in here, this is also kind of a cool and handy thing. Our system gives you the ability to do corrections against invoices relatively easy. So if I click on my correct button, I have 3 options. One is I want to do a correction. What this would do is it would take this posted sales invoice, it's going to create a corrective credit memo against it to basically reverse it out and apply against it. And then it's going to represent me with this sales invoice again, because maybe I messed up and I put in a quantity of 4 and it was actually supposed to be a quantity of 5, and I didn't realize it until I had posted it. So I could do a correction. It'll back out the original. It'll represent me with all of these details again, and then I could change my quantity and then post it again. It will post with a new invoice number, just going to warn you about that. Cancel would just basically reverse this whole thing. It's going to create the corrective credit memo for the exact amounts that are in here and allow me to just back that out. We did this invoice completely wrong. the customer didn't want to do any of this stuff, so we're just canceling it all. I can just use the cancel button and it'll handle that for me within 1 or 2 clicks. And then the create corrective credit memo. The idea behind this one is it's going to create you the credit memo automatically, kind of like a cancel will do, but it gives you the ability to adjust it. So maybe you're going to return all 4 of these from the customer for them, but you're going to charge them a restocking fee of $50. So you could alter the amount of the credit they're going to get by the $50 for the restocking fee, and now they still owe you $50 on that original invoice. And so those are the 3 options for you that allow you to go out there and deal with those things relatively easy within the system. It is pretty handy. All right, I'm going to click back over into my Kronos USA, and finally I'm going to go in and we're going to do a purchase order here just to kind of showcase to you that the system, what the system can do. So in here, again, I want to go in and talk about the notion of how we're going to go out here and deal with some of these things. And I want to personalize some stuff, right? I'm not needing a location code. I'm not needing a bin code right now. And so this is really what personalize is all about. I can come into here and say, I don't need this field. I'm going to hide it. I don't need the location code. I'm going to hide it. But let's pretend that we're a job cost company and there's job numbers that I want to see, and notice I don't see it out here. So again, rather than just cluttering up the screen and dragging all of these data elements out here somewhere, this allows me to pick and choose the things that are important to me for my company, and I can adjust each of these screens individually. And the fact that I'm dealing with job numbers as I'm going through this stuff, and maybe somebody just does internal purchases and it has nothing to do with the job, then they wouldn't necessarily have to personalize theirs and do job numbers and job tasks and things like that, okay? So from that perspective, I personally, as this person doing this purchase order, focused on jobs, I can bring out all this job information and have it hit to those directly as I'm creating it, but somebody else maybe does not need to do that. I'd find that rare in a company that did job costing, but at the same time, I'm just giving you a what if. So the idea would be is these are things that are predefined. I can drag things back and forth all day long. The other thing that we're able to do is if I'm down here, and you'll notice that these screens go on for a while, but I'm allowed to actually collapse all of these so that I can make them nice and clean and easy to look at, right? And then I can expand each of these to go out here and look at just key pieces. And then the other thing is each of these sections on all of these different screens, right? We have this show more and show less capability. So this is in the show less version of it. I'm just seeing the key things that would normally be identified here. When I'm in personalized mode, I get to define what shows up under show more, or when it's collapsed, meaning this, and this is what it looks like when it's collapsed. And if it says show when collapsed, it would look like something like this. And so the idea would be is, again, it helps every user make these screens function the way they want to. But payment terms is tucked all the way down here under here in invoice details. Well, I don't really want to lose it down there. So what I can do is if I come over to here, I can take my payment terms code and I can actually move it to a different section. Try that again. There we go. Now it's starting to move. And I can drag it up to the top of the screen if my screen would start moving with me. There it goes. And I can move it all the way into this top section right up here. So again, it's giving me an end user, without getting a developer involved, the ability to make each of these sections work the way I want to, whether it's in a show less, a show more, or in a collapsed state. I have total control about what fields show up when, and how many fields I want. These can be very busy. We can actually remove all of these fields from this section if you never change any addresses, and it just takes some of that out of the equation. They would just be moved back into the list here in case somebody ever needed to go out there and do that. So I'm going to click done there, and then I'm just going to go ahead and collapse that again. So super easy for you to go in here and do this stuff. The last thing I wanted to showcase, we can do print and send. So we can go in here, we can send all of these electronically. I'm creating this purchase order. I want to send it off to my vendor. I would do the send here, but that doesn't really help us as we're trying to talk through this stuff. So I'm just going to click on print. I'm going to tell it to preview it. This would be like printing it to the screen in GP. And that's what a purchase order looks like inside of BC. If I make that a little bit bigger, well, that was a little too big. Let's try a little bit smaller. It's a nice looking report. This is actually a Word document. Anybody using GP that use the Word templates, that's what these are. We have one area where we can bring in the logo and it gets added to all of the reports throughout the system. That's kind of handy and really nice. These are really nice looking clean reports. We've done some cleanup on some of these to move fields around, maybe make this be a little bit smaller to add more details into here, things like that. But these are really nice looking documents, and it works really well. And again, we can go right into doing the print and send. So we could have sent this electronically, and what it would do is you have total control over the email message that goes out, and then it would have done a PDF version of that purchase order and attached it right into the email just by doing the send from here, which I don't have the email set up in our demo environment to do that. Okay, I'm gonna back out of here and we're gonna click back on our Cronus. So there's a couple final things I wanted to talk about. And I know that this has gone on for a while, but there's just so many things that can go on. And if you're seeing things that you like and you really want to have a broader discussion, we can schedule some time with you guys to go over this in greater detail and then even tailor it to the type of business that you're doing. Maybe you're a service management, maybe you're a job cost, maybe you're a manufacturer, maybe you're a distributor or any other type of business, right? We can tailor those conversations and kind of walk you through the system in a little greater detail. But different than some of the other ERPs that are out there, right, is BC functions with a chart of accounts where you have a main segment, and then we're using dimensions to go out there and add in those additional segments. Maybe you have a department segment, or maybe you have a division segment and things like that. Those would be separate, unique dimensions that are created. And the idea behind this would be is anybody that's done report writing with GP for any length of time, you normally built your reporting off of the main account, and then you might have used our trees to say, now I want to see a departmental financial statement. And that's all this is doing is it's doing what you would have done in FRX or management reporting. In here, it's allowing you to have the flexibility to go out there and design those reports the way you need to, and it's leveraging the same kind of functionality that you would have had inside of a FRX or a management reporter, okay? So in here, here's your chart of accounts. It's already kind of breaking it out to showcase to you. Here's kind of a really quick and dirty financial statement showing you my total assets here. I can come down into my liabilities, look at each of these, get into a total liabilities, work my way into my equities, and then also down into my revenues and expenses, right? All of these, they're hyperlinks. I can drill back on this. It's going to show me all the details behind it. And then if I wanted to, I could have drilled back all the way to the other stuff, but I want to showcase to you the dimensions. And so if I came into here, this is where we would come in and actually set up the different dimensions. Out of the box, you have 8 dimensions that you can create. Notice they don't all have to be account oriented. This could be like an area related to a customer group or something, right? We have the Northeast, the Northwest, we have the Central, you know, the Midwest states, whatever. You can create these different things. So you have 8 out of the box that are easily modified to the screens. The first 2 in your general ledger setup, you would set up global dimensions. Those 2 dimensions pretty much get added to every screen in automatically. The other 6 become other shortcut dimensions, and they can be easily personalized to be brought out onto those screens. And so the idea here would be is this one's doing a business group, this one's a customer group, here's department, purchaser, sales campaign, and a salesperson. So again, things totally unrelated to the accounting side of things. This can be tracking anything within the system here. And so the idea would be is if you had this many dimensions and we went back into, say, a purchase invoice, and let's just click onto this, we would now be able to come out here and there's that department code. If I came into here, I could then say, hey, I wanted to hit a certain account over here and I wanted to also go into my production department. Or I also wanted to identify that this was related to our medium customer group rather than the small or the large. So the idea would be is you have control about where these get added and when they get used. We can make it so that certain ones are absolutely required and others could be not necessarily required. And so again, it gives you that flexibility so that when you want to actually go out there and and run a financial statement. So if I get back here and we go to finance and I go to account schedules, this is where you'd be able to see all the different kinds of financial statements that you can run. And so in here, if I wanted to just run our income statement, I could highlight this row right from here. I could either print it, or I could just tell it to do a process and look at the overview of it. So this is a live screen, right? And this allows me right from here to look at all of my data. It's got me running it for a quarter from April 1st to June 30th. And if I were to drill on any of these amounts, I get to drill back to it and see what makes up these values. And here's all the stuff that makes up that $212, okay? So it's totally drillable right from here with you. The thing that's really cool and unique about the system in here is well, here's number one. Here's how I can just start to filter this down into a department. I have a feeling we're going to lose data if I go do this, but I'll do it anyway. So notice we didn't have anything that went to the admin department. So let me just remove that. But this is what allows you that flexibility to go out here and create all the different financial statements that you might like to see based on departments or customer groups or any of those other dimensions that were out there. These are just the two that were brought out on this. The other thing that the system lets us do really cool and quickly is I'm running it for a quarter, but you know what? I just want to run it for a month. Now I'm just looking at June, right? And then I don't have any detail in there for June, so I'm going to go to a previous period. Still no detail, so let's go back to April. Now I'm looking at it for April. Again, that's where that 252.22 came from, and here's the 21,000. So all of my numbers really came from April. But so now I'm in April here. If I were to do a drop down here, I could now just start to look at, I just want to look at a week's worth of data. Now, if I'm doing previous period, this is related to just running it a week at a time, okay? So here's what this week looked like as a financial statement. If I just wanted to run it for a day, I can actually run a financial statement just for a day. It's all one financial statement. This gives me some flexibility that I haven't seen in any of the other systems. Now, I don't have a lot of people that really want to run a daily financial statement. Way back in my days, I did have a grocery store that ran weeklies. And so from that perspective, it would be easy for them to do this if they didn't already build out their periods based on weeks. I could have gone in here and done it and just looked at my weeklies right by coming into here. Far easier than other systems I've used in the past to be able to do this stuff. It's all one report. I'm just making simple changes to a field that's already been made available to me. The last thing I wanted to kind of showcase in here, because this is where it really does get kind of interesting, is it is a very visual system. When I click on items in the system, notice I've got big, snappy looking pictures of all of my items. So I find this to be a really cool feature, and I think it really kind of showcases well. If I'm a salesperson and I'm out there talking to somebody, I can change this view and actually be looking at it in a list view. If I'm an accountant, this is probably how I want to look at my inventory. But if I'm a sales guy and I'm really trying to sell them on my Athens or my Paris guest chair versus my London swivel, right? Coming in and having a conversation with them on an iPad or a Surface and looking at the actual pictures and saying, oh, was this the chair you were speaking of? Or was it this chair? Or was it this blue chair over here? We have the ability with all of these too, where we can actually track attributes about all these things. And so if color was set up as an attribute, we can actually come into here and say, hey, show me where my attribute color is equal to, and then find a value. And I can say, just show me the blue. And now I'm going to see a much smaller data set that these are the only two items that have blue as an attribute set up for them. And that's all I'm going to see here. So cool, so easy to go out here and actually get to this stuff and look at these things. And again, once you click on one, it walks you through all the details about the item, you know, how many are in stock, how many are going to be on purchase orders, how many are on production orders, how many are on a sales order, right? You'd see all those details. All of these are drillable for you to get back to and look at them. And so it's super cool, super easy. And it's in here that you would actually be able to add in your picture. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you taking away from your lunch.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us today. Any additional questions or additional information that you guys would like, my contact information, and we can make sure we reach out and have conversations with you individually. Thank you everyone for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know Tom does too. And yeah, have a great Thursday.